Chapter 1. Spring 1968. The bus station smelled of diesel and desperation. Bella Russo stood on the corner of 8th Avenue and 42nd Street with her mother's battered suitcase at her feet and a scholarship letter folded in the pocket of her cotton dress. Around her, New York City roared and belched and screamed, a living creature so different from the sleepy Louisiana fishing town she'd left behind that she might as well have stepped onto another planet. She'd been standing there for 20 minutes, unable to move, unable to breathe properly in air that tasted of exhaust and hot pretzels and something indefinably urban. Back home in Terrebonne Parish, the air smelled of salt marsh and shrimp boats and her father's camels. Here, everything was concrete and glass and noise, noise, noise. You lost, baby? Bella turned to find a woman leaning against the station wall, smoking a cigarette with the casual elegance of someone who'd been born doing it. She was perhaps 21 or 22, with dark hair teased into a style Bella had only seen in magazines, and eyes lined so heavily with black that they looked like they could cut glass. She wore bell-bottom jeans and a paisley blouse unbuttoned just low enough to suggest she knew exactly what she was doing. I Bella's voice came out smaller than she'd intended. I'm looking for the Upper West Side. The woman laughed, not unkindly. Honey, you're about as far from the Upper West Side as you can get without swimming to Jersey. She dropped her cigarette and ground it out with a platform heel. Where are you headed? Bella pulled out the letter, now soft from repeated folding and unfolding during the 3-day bus ride north. The woman took it, her eyes scanning quickly. Well, I'll be, she said, and then, seeing Bella's face, sorry. I mean, you got into the school? The one on West 73rd? Bella nodded. I'm Judy Kowalski. I live 2 blocks from there. She handed back the letter and picked up Bella's suitcase before Bella could protest. Come on. Subway's this way. You look like you're about to pass out, and I'm not in the mood to explain to the cops why there's a dead ballerina on the sidewalk. The apartment was a 4th-floor walk-up in a building that had probably been elegant in 1910 and was now just holding on. Judy kicked open the door to reveal a studio barely large enough for the Murphy bed, kitchenette, and single window that looked out onto a fire escape and the brick wall of the building next door. It's not much, Judy said, dropping the suitcase, but the rent's only $85 a month, and Mrs. Kowalski downstairs, my aunt, God help me, doesn't ask questions as long as you're quiet after 10. Bella stood in the doorway, overwhelmed by the casual generosity of this stranger who'd just offered her a place to stay. I can't. I mean, I have some money saved, but… You can sleep on the floor until you figure something out, Judy said, already pulling sheets from a narrow closet. Or we can share the bed. I don't care. I grew up with 4 sisters in a 2-bedroom in Greenpoint. This is practically the Waldorf. That night, lying on a makeshift pallet of blankets while Judy snored softly above her, Bella stared at the ceiling and watched the headlights from the street below paint moving shadows across the cracked plaster. She thought about her mother's face at the bus station in Homa, proud and terrified in equal measure. Thought about her father, who'd pressed $20 into her hand and told her not to let those city people make her forget where she came from. She thought about the letter, now tucked under her pillow. We are pleased to offer you a full scholarship to our program based on the exceptional promise you demonstrated during your audition. She'd sent her resume in January, a single typed page listing her training with Miss Paulette, her performances in local recitals, a photograph of herself in 5th position. 6 weeks later, an invitation had arrived. Please present yourself for an audition on March 15th at 2 p.m. She'd taken the bus up for the day, performed in the high school gymnasium with Miss Paulette accompanying her on an out-of-tune piano, wearing a leotard she'd sewn herself from a simplicity pattern. And somehow, impossibly, it had been enough. Tomorrow she would walk through the doors of one of the most prestigious performing arts schools in the country. Tomorrow, her real life would begin, if she could just stop her hands from shaking. The school had no name on the door, just a brass number, 247, on a limestone townhouse that rose 5 stories above West 73rd Street. Bella stood on the sidewalk in her best dress, pale blue, with a Peter Pan collar that now seemed hopelessly provincial, and tried to calm her racing heart. "You'll be fine," Judy had said that morning, applying her eyeliner with the precision of a surgeon. "Just remember, everyone there is pretending to be more confident than they actually are. It's all performance, baby, even the walking down the hallway part." Bella climbed the steps and pushed open the heavy door. Inside, the foyer was all dark wood and burgundy carpet, with photographs lining the walls. Dancers frozen mid-leap, actors caught in dramatic poses, singers with their mouths open in silent arias. A curved staircase swept upward, and from somewhere above came the sound of a piano and the rhythmic thud of feet on wood. "You must be Miss Rousseau." Bella turned to find a young man with a clipboard and an expression of permanent boredom. "I'm David. I'll show you to the studio. Madame Louvette wants to meet all the new scholarship students personally." He led her up 3 flights of stairs, past practice rooms where she caught glimpses of students stretching, singing, rehearsing monologues. Everyone looked so polished, so professional, so utterly unlike her. Her stomach twisted. The studio on the 3rd floor was enormous, with floor-to-ceiling windows that flooded the space with morning light. A bar ran along one wall, and mirrors covered another. In the center of the room, a woman stood with her back to the door, speaking to a pianist in rapid French. "Madame," David said, "the scholarship girl." The woman turned, and Bella's first thought was that she looked like a bird, a small, fierce raptor with sharp features and eyes that missed nothing. She was tiny, barely 5 feet tall, but she held herself with such authority that she seemed to fill the entire room. Her silver hair was pulled back in a severe bun, and she wore a black dress that might have been fashionable in 1940. "Ah, yes," she said, her accent thick and unmistakably French. "Come, come, let me see you." Bella walked forward, acutely aware of every step, every breath. Madame Louvette circled her slowly, and Bella could feel those sharp eyes cataloging every flaw, every imperfection. "You are from Louisiana, yes? The bayou?" "Yes, ma'am. Terrebonne Parish." "And you have been dancing how long?" "Since I was 6, ma'am. My teacher, Miss Paulette, she studied in New Orleans before." "Yes, yes." Madame waved a hand dismissively. "Show me your positions, 1st through 5th." Bella moved through the basic positions, her body remembering the countless hours of practice in the high school gym, in her bedroom, in the small studio above the hardware store where Miss Paulette taught. "Adequate," Madame said. "Now, I want to see your—" She stopped mid-sentence. Bella had turned to face the mirror, and in that moment, with the morning light streaming through the windows and catching her profile, something shifted in the room. Madame Louvette made a sound, a small, choked gasp that seemed to come from somewhere deep in her chest. Her face, which had been merely stern, went absolutely white. She took a step backward, and for a moment, Bella thought the old woman might actually fall. "Madame?" The pianist half rose from his bench, but Madame Louvette was staring at Bella with an expression that Bella couldn't quite read. Shock, certainly, but something else underneath it, something that looked almost like terror. "Your face," Madame whispered. "Mon Dieu, your face." Bella touched her cheek instinctively. "Is something wrong?" For a long moment, Madame didn't speak. She seemed to be struggling with something internal, some battle being waged behind those sharp eyes. When she finally spoke, her voice was carefully controlled, but Bella could hear the tremor underneath. "No, nothing is wrong." She turned away abruptly. "David will show you to the changing room. We will begin your assessment tomorrow, 9 o'clock. Do not be late." "But I thought—" "Tomorrow, Miss Rousseau." It was a dismissal, clear and final. Bella followed David out of the studio, confused and shaken. At the door, she glanced back and saw Madame Louvette standing at the window, her small frame rigid, one hand pressed against the glass as if to steady herself. Chapter 2. October 1923. The speakeasy on West 52nd Street was packed, despite, or perhaps because of, the rain that had been falling since morning. Sophia Louvette pushed through the crowd, ignoring the hands that reached for her, the voices that called her name. She was used to the attention. After 3 years as the principal dancer at the Ziegfeld Follies, she'd learned to move through the world as if she were still on stage, always performing, always aware of the eyes on her. "Sophie, over here!" She turned to see Tommy Marconi waving from a corner booth, his slicked-back hair gleaming in the low light. Next to him sat a woman Sophia didn't recognize, young, maybe 20, with an eager, hungry look that Sophia had seen 1,000 times before. Another girl fresh off the bus, dreaming of Broadway. "Tommy," Sophia said, sliding into the booth, "I thought you were in Chicago." "Got back yesterday. Had to see my best girl." He signaled the waiter for another round. "Sophie, this is Lowell. She's new in town, wants to be a dancer." The young woman, Lowell, leaned forward eagerly. "I saw you in the Follies last month. You were incredible. The way you did that turn in the second act, I've been trying to figure out how you—" "Practice," Sophia said, not unkindly. "And good teachers. And luck." She accepted a glass from the waiter and took a long drink. The gin was terrible, but it was wet and it was strong, and that was all that mattered. "Lowell's from St. Louis," Tommy said. "Came here with $50 and a dream. Sound familiar?" It did, actually. Sophia had arrived in New York 5 years ago with even less, $32 and a cardboard suitcase held together with rope. She'd slept in a boarding house in Hell's Kitchen where the rats were so bold they'd steal food right off your plate. She'd auditioned for everything, been rejected by everyone, until finally, Florenz Ziegfeld himself had seen something in her. "You have a place to stay?" Sophia asked. Lowell's eager expression faltered slightly. "I'm at a boarding house on 10th Avenue. It's fine," which meant it was terrible. Sophia knew those boarding houses, knew the landlords who charged by the week and didn't ask questions, knew the girls who disappeared into them and never came out. "There's a room in my building," Sophia heard herself say. "4th floor. The girl who had it just moved out. It's small, but it's clean, and the landlady's decent. $30 a month." Lowell's face lit up. "Really? Oh, that would be— I mean, I can pay you back. I just need a few weeks to—" "Don't worry about it." Sophia finished her drink and stood. "Come by tomorrow. 247 West 73rd Street. Ask for Sophia Louvette." She left before Lowell could thank her again, before Tommy could give her that knowing look that said she was too soft, too generous, too willing to help every lost girl who stumbled into the city. Outside, the rain had intensified. Sophia pulled her coat tighter and started walking north, her heels clicking on the wet pavement. She should have taken a cab, but she liked walking in the rain, liked the way it washed the city clean, made everything look new and possible. She didn't notice the figure following her, didn't see the shadow that kept pace half a block behind, matching her stride for stride. She was thinking about the new routine Ziegfeld wanted her to learn, about the costume fitting she had tomorrow, about whether she should really let this Lowell girl move into her building. She was thinking about 1,000 small things, the ordinary concerns of an ordinary life. She was not thinking about death. They found her 3 days later in the basement of the building on West 73rd Street. The landlady, Mrs. Chen, had gone down to check the furnace and discovered the body wedged behind the coal bin, already starting to smell in the October heat. The newspapers went wild. "Ziegfeld star found murdered," screamed the Herald. "Broadway beauty slain in mysterious circumstances," declared the Times. The Daily News ran a photograph of Sophia in her Follies costume, all feathers and sequins and that brilliant smile, under the headline, "Who Killed Sophie?" The police investigation was thorough, but ultimately fruitless. Sophia had been bludgeoned to death with a blunt object, that much was clear. But there were no witnesses, no obvious suspects, no clear motive. She had no enemies that anyone knew of, no jealous lovers, no unpaid debts, no dark secrets. She had simply been a girl who'd come to New York to dance, who'd worked hard and gotten lucky, who'd been kind to strangers and generous with her success. And now, she was dead. The case remained open for 6 months before being quietly filed away with all the other unsolved murders that accumulated in a city of 6 million people. Sophia Louvet became a footnote, a cautionary tale, a ghost story that dancers told each other late at night. But one person never forgot. In a small room on the fourth floor of 247 West 73rd Street, Lowell sat on the narrow bed that had been meant for her and stared at her hands. They were shaking. They'd been shaking for 3 days, ever since. No, she couldn't think about it, wouldn't think about it. She had to leave New York, had to disappear, had to become someone else entirely. She stood and began to pack her few belongings, moving mechanically, her mind already racing ahead. She would go west, maybe, or south, somewhere far from here, somewhere she could start over, somewhere she could forget the sound Sophia had made when. No. She closed the suitcase and walked out of the room, out of the building, out of that life forever. Behind her, in the basement, the police were still searching for clues they would never find. Chapter 3. Spring 1968. Madame Louvet did not sleep that night. She sat in her apartment on the 5th floor of the school building, the same building where she'd lived for 45 years, though no one knew that, and stared at the photograph she kept hidden in a locked drawer of her desk. Sophia Louvet smiled out from the faded image, frozen forever at 23, wearing her Follies costume and that expression of pure joy that had made her so magnetic on stage. The photograph had been taken 2 weeks before her death. Madame, who had been Lowell then, just Lowell, a girl from St. Louis with dreams too big for her talent, had stolen it from Sophia's room after the police had finished their investigation. She'd kept it all these years, a reminder of what she'd done, what she'd become. She'd left New York the day after the murder, taken a train to San Francisco, and spent the next 15 years reinventing herself. She'd studied dance with a Russian émigré who'd fled the revolution. She'd performed in small theaters up and down the West Coast. She'd cultivated a French accent and a mysterious past. Had changed her name to Louvet, a cruel joke perhaps, or a penance, and had slowly, carefully, built a reputation as a teacher. When she'd returned to New York in 1938, no one recognized her. Why would they? Lowell from St. Louis had been a nobody, a girl who'd disappeared without a trace. Madame Louvet was someone entirely different, a former prima donna, she claimed, from Paris, a woman of culture and refinement, a teacher of exceptional skill. She'd bought the building on West 73rd Street, the same building where Sophia had died, and turned it into a school. Another penance, perhaps, or maybe just a way to stay close to the scene of her crime, to remind herself every day of what she was capable of. For 30 years, it had worked. She'd taught hundreds of students, had built a reputation as one of the finest instructors in the city. She'd been careful, always careful, to maintain her facade, to never let anyone see beneath the surface. And then Bella Rousseau had walked into her studio. Madame set down the photograph with trembling hands. The resemblance was impossible, uncanny, terrifying. It wasn't just that the girl looked like Sophia. It was that she looked exactly like Sophia. The same delicate bone structure, the same wide-set eyes, the same way of holding her head slightly tilted when she was nervous. It was as if Sophia had come back from the dead. Madame didn't believe in reincarnation, in ghosts, in any kind of supernatural justice. She believed in hard work and discipline and the cold, practical realities of the world. But looking at Bella Rousseau, she felt something she hadn't felt in 45 years. Fear. The girl had to go, had to be expelled, sent back to Louisiana, removed from Madame's life before what? Before she somehow discovered the truth? Before her very presence drove Madame mad? But how could she expel a scholarship student without cause? The board would ask questions. The other teachers would protest. And what reason could she possibly give? I'm sorry, but your face reminds me of a woman I murdered in 1923. Madame laughed, a harsh, bitter sound in the silent apartment. She was trapped by her own success, her own carefully constructed life, her own guilt. She stood and walked to the window, looking down at the street below. A young couple walked past, laughing, their arms around each other. A taxi honked. A dog barked. The ordinary sounds of an ordinary spring evening in New York City. Somewhere in this city, Bella Rousseau was sleeping, dreaming of her future, unaware that she was the living image of a dead woman, unaware that her very existence was a threat to everything Madame had built. Madame pressed her forehead against the cool glass and closed her eyes. She had survived for 45 years by being careful, by being smart, by never letting anyone get close enough to see the truth. She would survive this too. She would find a way to get rid of the girl without raising suspicion. She would protect her secret, protect her life, protect everything she'd worked for. She had to. Because the alternative, the truth coming out, the police reopening the case, her carefully constructed identity crumbling away, was unthinkable. Madame Louvette had killed once to protect her future. She would do whatever was necessary to protect it now. 2 blocks away, in the 4th-floor walk-up, Bella lay awake and stared at the ceiling. Judy was out, a late audition, she'd said, though Bella suspected it was actually a date, and the apartment felt too quiet, too empty. She kept thinking about the way Madame Louvette had looked at her, that expression of shock, of horror, of something Bella couldn't quite name. She'd seen fear in people's eyes before, had seen it in her mother's eyes when she'd announced she was leaving for New York. But this had been different. This had been personal. Your face, Madame had whispered. Mon Dieu, your face. What did that mean? Was there something wrong with her face? Some flaw she'd never noticed? Some imperfection that marked her as unworthy? Bella got up and walked to the small mirror hanging by the door. She studied her reflection in the dim light from the street, the same face she'd seen every day for 19 years. Oval-shaped, with high cheekbones and a pointed chin, wide-set hazel eyes, a small nose that turned up slightly at the end, full lips that her mother said were her best feature. It was just a face, an ordinary face, nothing special, nothing terrible. So why had Madame Louvette looked at her like she'd seen a ghost? Bella returned to her makeshift bed and pulled the blanket up to her chin. Tomorrow, she would go back to the school. Tomorrow, she would prove that she belonged there, that she deserved the scholarship, that she was more than just a girl from a Louisiana fishing town. Tomorrow, her real life would begin, if Madame Louvette would let it. Outside, the city hummed and growled and sang its endless song. Somewhere in the darkness, secrets stirred. Somewhere in the past, a dead woman waited, and in the space between then and now, between memory and present, between guilt and innocence, the threads of 2 lives began to intertwine in ways that neither Bella nor Madame could yet imagine. The story was just beginning, and like all the best stories, it would end in blood. Chapter 4, Spring 1968. The assessment room was smaller than Bella had imagined. A converted parlor with mirrors along one wall and a bar that looked older than the building itself. 5 other scholarship students stood in a nervous line, their bodies already arranged in first position, their faces carefully blank. Bella took her place at the end. Through the mirror, she watched Madame Louvette enter, followed by 2 younger instructors whose names Bella hadn't yet learned. "We begin," Madame announced, her accent somehow thicker than it had been the day before. "Pliés," and I will know immediately who has been properly trained and who has been taught by amateurs in provincial backwaters." Her eyes landed on Bella as she said it. The piano began. An older woman with gray hair pulled into a severe bun, her fingers moving across the keys with mechanical precision. Bella sank into the first plie, feeling her muscles stretch and engage, feeling the familiar burn that meant she was doing it right. Non, non, non! Madame's cane struck the floor inches from Bella's foot. "Your turnout is atrocious. Your posture is that of a fishwife, not a dancer. Again!" Bella repeated the movement. Her turnout was perfect. She knew it was. She'd been doing pliés since she was 6 years old. "Worse, are you deliberately trying to insult me? Perhaps you think because you have a scholarship you need not work? Perhaps you think you are already a star." The other students had stopped moving, watching with a mixture of pity and relief that they weren't the target. "I'm sorry, madame," Bella said quietly. "I'll try harder." "Try? Try?" Madame's voice rose to a near shriek. "One does not try in ballet. One does, or one fails. And you, Miss Rousseau, are failing spectacularly." The assessment continued for 2 brutal hours. Every movement Bella made was wrong. Every position was criticized. When the other students were dismissed, Madame kept Bella behind. "You will practice your pliés. 100 repetitions. I will watch." Bella's legs were already shaking with fatigue, but she began again. Madame sat in a chair by the mirror, her cane across her lap, her eyes never leaving Bella's reflection. Down, up, down, up. "Your grandmother," Madame said suddenly, her voice different now, softer, almost curious. "What was her name?" "Marie," Bella answered, confused by the question. "Marie Thibodeau." "And her mother?" "I don't know, madame. She died before I was born." Madame was silent for a long moment. "You have no family in New York? No one who came here before you?" "No, madame. I'm the first." Something flickered across Madame's face. Relief, perhaps, or disappointment. Bella couldn't tell which. "Continue," Madame said. 50 more. October 1923. The room Sophia gave Lowell was small but clean, with a window that looked out onto the street. It had belonged to another dancer, Sophia explained, a girl who'd gotten married and moved to Philadelphia. "You can stay as long as you need," Sophia said, setting fresh linens on the narrow bed. "I know how hard it is when you're starting out." Lowell stood in the doorway, overwhelmed by the kindness. "I'll pay you back. As soon as I get work. Don't be silly. We dancers have to look out for each other." Sophia smiled, and Lowell felt something twist in her chest. Gratitude mixed with something darker, something she couldn't quite name. Over the following weeks, Lowell watched Sophia's life unfold like a fairy tale. Rehearsals with Ziegfeld, fittings for elaborate costumes, flowers delivered to the apartment from admirers, invitations to parties that Lowell was never quite included in. "You should come tonight," Sophia would say, pulling on her coat. "It'll be fun." But there was always a reason why Lowell couldn't. She didn't have the right clothes, she didn't know the right people, she wouldn't fit in. Lowell began to understand that Sophia's kindness had limits. She was generous with her space, with her money, with her advice. But she wasn't generous with her world. That world, the world of spotlights and applause and men in expensive suits, belonged to Sophia alone. One night in late October, Lowell came home from a failed audition to find Sophia in the parlor, practicing a new routine. She moved like water, like light, like something not quite human. Every gesture was perfect. Every turn was flawless. Lowell stood in the doorway and felt the darkness inside her grow. "How was it?" Sophia asked, not stopping her practice. "They said I wasn't right for the part." "Oh, that's too bad." Sophia executed a perfect pirouette. But you'll find something. You just have to keep trying. Keep trying. As if trying was enough. As if talent and beauty and luck weren't what really mattered. As if Sophia hadn't been born with all three while Lowell had been given none. I'm going out, Lowell said abruptly. This late? Where? Just out. She walked for hours through the rain-slicked streets, her anger building with each step. It wasn't fair. None of it was fair. Sophia had everything, and she didn't even appreciate it. She took it all for granted. The talent, the opportunities, the life that Lowell would have killed for. Would have killed for. The thought stopped her in the middle of the sidewalk. Would she? Could she? A man bumped into her, muttered an apology, kept walking. The city moved around her, indifferent to her rage, indifferent to her pain. When she finally returned to the apartment, it was past midnight. Sophia was asleep. Lowell stood in the doorway of Sophia's room, watching her breathe, watching her dream whatever dreams beautiful, successful people dreamed. And in that moment, Lowell made a decision. Spring 1968. She's trying to break you, Judy said, lighting a cigarette and leaning against the kitchen counter. I've seen it before. Some teachers, they get off on it. The power. Bella sat at the small table, her feet soaking in a basin of ice water. 3 weeks into the program, and her body was a map of pain. Bruises on her shins from Madam's cane, blisters on her feet that had burst and reformed and burst again, muscles that screamed with every movement. Maybe I'm just not good enough, Bella said quietly. Bull, I've seen you dance, remember? That first day at the bus station? You're good. Better than good. Judy exhaled smoke toward the ceiling. This isn't about your dancing. This is about something else. Like what? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. 2 days later, Judy showed up at the school during Bella's lunch break. She'd dressed carefully, a respectable skirt and blouse, her hair pinned back, her makeup subtle. She looked like someone's concerned older sister, which was exactly the impression she wanted to give. I'm here to observe my roommate's class, she told the woman at the front desk. Bella Rousseau. I'm considering enrolling myself, and I wanted to see the quality of instruction. The woman looked uncertain but didn't stop her. Judy found the practice room and slipped in quietly, taking a seat in the back. What she saw made her blood run cold. Madame Louvette was circling Bella like a predator, her cane tapping against the floor in rhythm with the piano. The other students were practicing across the room, but all of Madame's attention was focused on Bella. Again, Madame commanded, and this time, try not to dance like a cow. Bella repeated the combination. Her movements were beautiful. Judy could see that even with her untrained eye, graceful and precise and full of emotion. Pathetic, Madame spat. You insult the art form with your presence. Perhaps you should return to your fishing boats and leave ballet to those with actual talent. Bella's face remained carefully neutral, but Judy saw her hands trembling. That was enough. Judy stood and walked toward them, her heels clicking on the wooden floor. Excuse me, she said, her voice carrying across the room. I'm Bella's roommate, and I'd like a word with you. Madame turned, her face registering surprise and then anger. This is a closed class. You have no business. I have every business when I see someone being abused. Judy planted herself between Madame and Bella. I don't know what your problem is with her, but it stops now. How dare you? No, how dare you? Judy's voice was steel. She's a scholarship student. She earned her place here. And if you can't treat her with basic human decency, I'll be making some phone calls to the board of directors. For a moment, Madame looked genuinely frightened. Then her face hardened. Get out, both of you. Miss Rousseau, you are suspended pending a disciplinary hearing. Fine, Judy said. We'll see what the board has to say about that, too. She took Bella's arm and led her from the room. Behind them, Judy could feel Madame's eyes burning into her back. That night, Bella couldn't sleep. She lay on her pallet, staring at the ceiling, replaying the day's events. She should have felt relieved. Judy had stood up for her, had protected her. But instead, she felt a strange sense of dread, as if something terrible was about to happen. Around 2 in the morning, she finally drifted off and dreamed. She was in the school building, but it was different, older, shabbier. The wallpaper was peeling, and the air smelled of mildew and something else, something metallic. She was walking down a hallway she'd never seen before, toward a door that shouldn't exist, the basement door. She opened it and descended stairs that creaked under her feet. At the bottom, there was a room with a concrete floor and exposed pipes. And in the center of the room, a woman was lying on the ground. The woman looked exactly like Bella. No, not exactly. Her hair was styled differently, in the finger waves of the 1920s. Her dress was from another era. But her face was identical. The woman's eyes opened. "You came back," she whispered. "I knew you would." "Who are you?" Bella asked. "You know who I am. You've always known." "Sophia." "Yes." The woman, Sophia, tried to sit up but couldn't. There was blood spreading across the concrete beneath her. "She killed me. She was my friend, and she killed me." "Who?" "Lowell. She was so angry, so jealous. I tried to help her, but it wasn't enough. Nothing was ever enough." Sophia's hand reached out, and Bella took it. The fingers were cold, so cold. "She's still here. She never left. She's been waiting." "Waiting for what?" "For you. For me. For a chance to finish what she started." Bella woke with a gasp, her heart pounding. The apartment was dark and quiet. Judy was snoring softly in the other room. Everything was normal. Except it wasn't. Because Bella knew, with absolute certainty, that the dream wasn't just a dream. It was a memory. Someone else's memory. Sophia's memory. November 1923. It happened on a Tuesday. Sophia had been out late at a party, and she came home giddy with champagne and success. She'd been offered a featured role in Ziegfeld's new production, a solo number, her name in the program, everything she'd ever wanted. "Lowell!" she called out, stumbling slightly as she came through the door. "Lowell, where are you? I have the most wonderful news." Lowell emerged from her room. She'd been waiting, planning, working up the courage. "I'm here." "You'll never believe it. Ziegfeld himself told me I was going to be a star, a real star. Can you imagine?" Sophia spun in a circle, her arms outstretched. "Everything is finally happening, everything I dreamed of." "That's wonderful," Lowell said flatly. Sophia stopped spinning, noticing Lowell's tone for the first time. "What's wrong? Aren't you happy for me?" "Of course I'm happy for you. Why wouldn't I be happy? You have everything. You've always had everything." "Lowell, do you know what it's like?" The words came out in a rush, months of resentment finally breaking free. "Watching you? Watching everyone love you and want you and give you everything while I get nothing? Do you have any idea?" Sophia's face softened. "Oh, Lowell, I know it's hard, but your time will come. You just have to be patient." "Patient? Patient?" Lowell laughed, and it was a terrible sound. "I've been patient. I've been grateful. I've been everything I'm supposed to be. And what has it gotten me? Nothing. Less than nothing." "You're upset. Let's talk about this in the morning when you're calmer." "I don't want to talk about it in the morning." Lowell grabbed Sophia's arm. "I want you to understand. I want you to feel what I feel. You're hurting me." Sophia tried to pull away, but Lowell's grip tightened. "Good. Maybe you should hurt. Maybe you should know what it's like to have nothing, to be nothing. Let go of me." Sophia wrenched herself free and stumbled backward, toward the basement door. It was open. Lowell had left it open on purpose, had planned this moment even if she hadn't fully admitted it to herself. "Lowell, please." But Lowell was beyond reason now. All the anger, all the jealousy, all the rage she'd been swallowing for months came pouring out. She lunged forward, her hands connecting with Sophia's shoulders. Sophia fell. The sound of her body hitting the concrete at the bottom of the stairs was sickeningly final. Lowell stood at the top of the stairs, breathing hard, staring down into the darkness. For a long moment she didn't move, couldn't move. Then she heard it, a soft moan. Sophia was still alive. Lowell descended the stairs slowly, each step deliberate. At the bottom, she found Sophia lying in a pool of blood, her leg bent at an impossible angle, her eyes wide with pain and fear. "Help me," Sophia whispered. "Please, Lowell, help me." Lowell looked at her, this beautiful, talented, beloved woman who had everything Lowell wanted, and she made a choice. She picked up a piece of pipe that was lying nearby, left over from some repair work. "I'm sorry," she said, and she meant it. "But I can't let you have it all. I can't." The pipe came down once, twice, 3 times. When it was over, Lowell sat on the basement floor next to Sophia's body and cried. Not from guilt, not yet. From relief. From the terrible, liberating knowledge that she had finally taken something for herself. She had finally won. Spring 1968. The disciplinary hearing was scheduled for Friday afternoon. Bella spent the days leading up to it in a fog, barely eating, barely sleeping. The dreams came every night now. Memories that weren't hers, moments from a life she'd never lived. She saw Sophia's childhood in a small town upstate, her first dance class, her arrival in New York, her friendship with Lowell, which had started with such genuine warmth and curdled into something toxic. And she saw the murder. Over and over, she saw the murder. On Thursday night, Bella made a decision. She waited until Judy was asleep, then slipped out of the apartment. The school was only a 15-minute walk, and she had a key. All scholarship students did, for early morning practice sessions. The building was dark and empty. Bella's footsteps echoed as she walked through the familiar hallways, but she wasn't going to the practice rooms. She was going to the basement. She'd never been to the basement before. Students weren't allowed down there. But she knew where it was. Sophia's memories guided her. The door was locked, but the lock was old and loose. Bella jiggled the handle, and it gave way. The stairs were exactly as she'd seen them in her dreams. She descended slowly, her hand trailing along the wall. At the bottom, she found a storage room filled with old props and costumes, boxes of programs from past productions. And in the corner, barely visible in the dim light from the street-level window, a dark stain on the concrete floor. Blood. Sophia's blood. Still there after 45 years. "I knew you would come here." Bella spun around. Madame Louvette stood at the top of the stairs, silhouetted against the light from the hallway. She descended slowly, her cane tapping against each step. "I knew from the moment I saw you," Madame continued. "That face. Her face. I thought I was seeing a ghost." "You killed her," Bella said. Her voice was steady, though her heart was racing. "You killed Sophia Louvette." "Yes." Madame reached the bottom of the stairs. In the dim light she looked ancient, her carefully maintained facade crumbling. "I killed her. And I've spent 45 years building a life on top of her grave." "Why?" "Why?" Madame laughed bitterly. "Because she had everything. Because she was everything I wanted to be. Because watching her succeed while I failed was like dying slowly, day after day." She moved closer. "You wouldn't understand. You're young. You still think the world is fair, that talent and hard work are enough. But they're not. Some people are born blessed, and some people are born to watch from the shadows. So you killed her. So I killed her." Madame's eyes were distant now, lost in memory. "And then I became her. I took her name, her identity. I left New York and reinvented myself. When I came back, no one remembered Lowell from St. Louis. They only knew Madame Louvette, the mysterious French dancer." "But you're not a dancer," Bella said. "You never were. That's why you're so cruel to your students." You're teaching something you never truly understood. Madame's face twisted with rage. I understood it better than anyone. I studied it. I lived it. I breathed it. Just because I didn't have Sophia's natural grace doesn't mean. She stopped, breathing hard. It doesn't matter now. What matters is that you're here, and you know the truth. I'm going to tell them, Bella said. I'm going to tell everyone what you did. No, Madame said softly. You're not. She raised her cane, and Bella saw that the bottom had been sharpened to a point. A weapon. Just like the pipe had been a weapon 45 years ago. History repeats itself, Madame said. Isn't that what they say? You came back, Sophia. You came back, and now I have to kill you again. She lunged forward. Chapter 5. Spring 1968. Bella dodged to the side, and the cane struck the concrete where she'd been standing. Madame was fast, impossibly fast for a woman in her 70s. The agility she'd always claimed came from her dancing career was real, even if the career itself was a lie. You can't run, Madame said, moving to block the stairs. There's no way out, just like there was no way out for Sophia. But Bella wasn't Sophia. Not entirely. She had Sophia's memories, Sophia's face, perhaps even Sophia's soul. But she also had 19 years of her own life, her own strength, her own will to survive. She grabbed a wooden chair from the corner and held it between them like a shield. Someone will come. Someone will hear us. No one will come. No one ever comes. Madame circled slowly, her eyes never leaving Bella's face. Do you know what it was like? Watching her die? She looked at me with such betrayal, such confusion. She couldn't understand why I would hurt her. She thought we were friends. You were friends, Bella said. She cared about you. She tried to help you. Her help was poison. Madame's voice rose to a shriek. Every kindness was a reminder of what I didn't have. Every smile was a knife in my heart. She was killing me slowly, so I killed her quickly. It was mercy, really. It was murder. It was justice. Madame lunged again, and this time the cane caught the chair, splintering the wood. Bella stumbled backward, her foot catching on something, a box of old programs. She fell hard, the breath knocked from her lungs. Madame stood over her, the cane raised. I'm sorry, she said, and she sounded almost sincere. But I can't let you destroy everything I've built. I can't go back to being nothing. The cane came down and stopped. Judy stood at the top of the stairs, holding a gun, a small revolver that looked almost toy-like in her hand. Step away from her, she said, her voice deadly calm. Right now. Madame froze. Who are you? I'm the girl who grew up in Hell's Kitchen with 3 brothers and a father who taught me to shoot when I was 8 years old. Judy descended the stairs slowly, the gun never wavering. I'm the girl who's been following Bella because I knew something was wrong. I'm the girl who's going to put a bullet in you if you don't drop that cane and step away. For a moment, no one moved. Then Madame's shoulders sagged, and the cane clattered to the floor. It's over, Judy said. It's finally over. The police came. Detectives who looked tired and skeptical until they saw the bloodstain on the floor, until they heard Madame's confession, rambling and defiant, and ultimately damning. They found evidence in Madame's apartment, newspaper clippings about Sophia's murder, carefully preserved for decades, a diary detailing her transformation from Lowell to Louvette, photographs of Sophia that Madame had kept, unable to fully let go of the woman she'd killed. Why did you keep all of it? One detective asked. Why not destroy the evidence? Madame looked at him with something like pity. Because it was the only real thing I ever did. Everything else was pretend. But that night I was real. That night I mattered. They took her away in handcuffs. She didn't resist. She looked almost relieved, as if she'd been waiting 45 years for this moment. November 1923. In the basement of 247 West 73rd Street, Sophia Louvette took her last breath. Her final thought was not of anger or fear, but of sadness. Sadness for her friend, for the darkness that had consumed her, for the waste of it all. And then she was gone. But not entirely, because some souls don't rest. Some souls wait. Some souls come back. Spring 1968. The school closed temporarily while the investigation continued. The board of directors issued a statement expressing shock and horror. Students were transferred to other institutions. The building itself was put up for sale. Bella and Judy sat on the steps outside their apartment, watching the sun set over the city. It had been 3 weeks since that night in the basement. 3 weeks of police interviews and newspaper reporters and strangers who wanted to hear the story firsthand. "You going to stay?" Judy asked, lighting a cigarette. "In New York, I mean." Bella was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. Part of me wants to go home, back to Louisiana, back to something simple and safe. And the other part? The other part knows I can't. Because this is where I'm supposed to be. This is where Sophia was supposed to be. And maybe—" She paused, trying to find the right words. "Maybe I'm here to finish what she started. To live the life she never got to live." "That's heavy," Judy said. "You sure you want to carry that?" "I don't think I have a choice." Bella looked down at her hands, hands that had held a ballet bar since she was 6 years old, hands that had Sophia's muscle memory encoded in them. "I've been having dreams. Not nightmares anymore, but good dreams. Dreams of dancing, of performing, of being on stage. And they feel like memories, but they're not memories of things that happened. They're memories of things that should have happened." "So you're going to make them happen?" "I'm going to try." Judy smiled. "Good. Because I didn't save your life just so you could go back to gutting fish in Louisiana." They sat in comfortable silence as the city darkened around them. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed. Somewhere closer, someone was playing music, jazz, drifting from an open window. "Thank you," Bella said quietly, "for following me that night, for saving me." "That's what family does," Judy said. "And like it or not, kid, you're stuck with me now." 3 months later, Bella auditioned for the American Ballet Theater. She performed a piece she'd choreographed herself, a solo that told the story of a woman who died too young and came back to finish her dance. The artistic director watched in silence. When Bella finished, he stood and applauded. "Where did you train?" he asked. "Louisiana," Bella said, "and New York, and somewhere in between." She got the position. Not a principal role, not yet, but a place in the corps de ballet, a chance to prove herself, a beginning. On opening night, Bella stood in the wings waiting for her cue. Her costume was white and flowing, and her hair was pulled back in the style of the 1920s. She looked exactly like the photographs of Sophia Louvet that had been published in all the newspapers. But she wasn't Sophia, not entirely. She was Bella Rousseau, a girl from Louisiana who'd come to New York with nothing but a dream and a scholarship. She was Bella Rousseau, who'd survived a murderer and solved a 45-year-old crime. She was Bella Rousseau, who carried the memories of another life but lived her own. And she was Sophia Louvet, who'd been denied her moment in the spotlight but had found a way back. She was both. She was neither. She was something new. The music began. Bella took a breath, feeling her body align, feeling the familiar rush of adrenaline and joy and terror that came before every performance. And then she danced. She danced for herself. She danced for Sophia. She danced for every girl who'd ever come to New York with a dream and been destroyed by someone else's jealousy. She danced for justice and redemption and the strange, impossible miracle of second chances. The audience watched in silence, transfixed. And in that silence, something shifted. The past and present merged. The dead and living became one. When the performance ended, the applause was thunderous. Bella took her bow, her heart full, her soul finally at peace. In the audience, Judy wiped tears from her eyes and whistled loudly, not caring that it wasn't proper theater etiquette. And somewhere, in the space between memory and present, between what was and what could have been, Sophia Louvet smiled. Epilogue. The building that had housed Madame Louvet's school was eventually torn down. In its place, they built a small park with a fountain and benches where old men played chess and mothers watched their children play. But before the demolition, workers found something in the basement. A box hidden behind a loose brick in the wall. Inside were letters, dozens of them, written by Lowell to Sophia but never sent. The letters told a story of obsession and longing, of a friendship that had curdled into something toxic. They detailed Lowell's growing resentment, her plans for revenge, her justifications for murder. But the last letter was different. It had been written the night of the murder, after Sophia was dead. It was short, just a few lines. I thought killing you would make me free. I thought taking your life would give me mine. But I was wrong. I'm more trapped now than I ever was before. I'm trapped in this moment, in this choice, in this terrible thing I've done. And I'll never escape it. Never. I'm sorry, Sophia. I'm so sorry. The letters were donated to the New York Public Library, where they became part of an archive on unsolved crimes of the 1920s. Researchers studied them. True crime enthusiasts debated them. But for Bella, they were something else. They were proof that even in her darkest moment, even after committing an unforgivable act, Lowell had been human. Flawed and broken and consumed by jealousy, but human. It didn't excuse what she'd done. Nothing could excuse that. But it explained it. And somehow, that explanation brought a kind of closure. Bella visited the letters once, on a cold day in December. She read them in silence, feeling Sophia's memories stir within her. Memories of friendship and betrayal, of love and hate, of a life cut short. When she finished, she closed the archive box and walked out into the winter afternoon. The city was decorated for Christmas, lights strung across the streets, shoppers hurrying past with bags and packages. Bella pulled her coat tighter and headed toward the theater. She had a performance that night, a featured role, her name in the program, everything Sophia had wanted, everything Bella had earned. She thought about Madame Louvet, who'd died in prison 6 months after her arrest. Heart attack, the newspapers said. But Bella wondered if it wasn't something else, if it wasn't the weight of guilt finally crushing her, if it wasn't the knowledge that she'd spent 45 years running from a truth that had finally caught up with her. She thought about Sophia, who'd been kind and generous, and perhaps a little naive, who'd tried to help a friend and paid for it with her life. And she thought about herself, Bella Rousseau, who was both and neither, who carried the past but lived in the present, who'd been given a second chance that she was determined not to waste. The theater was warm and bright. Backstage, the other dancers were warming up, their bodies moving through familiar routines. Bella joined them, feeling her muscles stretch and engage, feeling the joy that came from doing what she was meant to do. 5 minutes, the stage manager called. Bella took her position in the wings. Through the curtain, she could hear the audience settling into their seats, the rustle of programs, the murmur of conversation. And then the lights dimmed. The music began. The curtain rose. Bella stepped onto the stage and into the light. She was home. She was free. She was exactly where she was meant to be. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the footlights, in the space between memory and present, between what was and what is, Sophia Louvet watched her dance and smiled.